Behind the Dish is sponsored by DBAT. Check out dbat.net for baseball and softball products, franchise information, and to find a location near you. And now your host, John Piper.
Welcome to another episode of Behind the Dish. I'm John Piper, and I'm pleased to be joined today by head coach Jim Schlossnagle of the TCU Horned Frogs. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. I know we've been trying to get you on the show for several months now, and you have a very busy schedule with everything you have going on the field and off the field. And, we want to talk a little bit about the program. You're starting your 16th season in Fort Worth at TCU. When you took the job in 2003, did you ever envision talking to your wife that you'd be there for 10-plus years, 15 years, and now starting your 16th season?
Yes, actually I did. I mean, this was a place that, not to go too deep into the history, but this was a place during my time at Tulane in New Orleans as the pitching coach and recruiting coordinator. I really enjoyed the private school setting, and you start looking around the country at places that are, good strong academic private schools in good baseball areas that had a chance to be really good. And first of all, there aren't very many of schools like that are at least in good baseball areas that are in good weather, that kind of thing. And the ones that filled that role or met those criteria were already really good. And one that was kind of underachieving in my mind was TCU. And with my wife being from Dallas, I always wanted to, coach, raise my family near somebody's extended family, and I'm from the East Coast, and I knew that probably wouldn't happen on that side of the country. So TCU was a place that I always had my eye on and felt like if they truly made a commitment at a high level to college baseball, that, really the sky's the limit. And so, people always say, what was your dream job? Well, TCU was my dream job. It was long before I ever left Tulane, and actually long before I ever became the head coach at UNLV, which was kind of my stop-off before coming to Fort Worth. And so, I knew it was going to take time and a process, but every single, successful organization that's built on solid ground is done that way. And so I've had 4 great ADs, and the guy, our chancellor, Mr. Bashini, who I think is the best in the country. We've had an incredible support and just kind of keep pushing the rock forward. And so it's been outstanding. So, yes, it's turned into everything that I hoped it would be.
Well, Coach, you mentioned, having your wife's family here in town in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Obviously, she's been happy that you chose and had the opportunity to coach at TCU, your family, your kids. I've got something here I want to cue up here and play. TCU's done a great job with some of the promotional media and things that you have there in Fort Worth, and I want to play this and kind of get your reaction to it.
I'm here to remind you what our standards are: selfless, excellence, and energy. We worked incredibly hard and fought incredibly well last year to get as far as we did, but we fell short, and that hurt. We all know about the target that'll be on our back this season, but that isn't the biggest challenge we'll face. Instead of ignoring others' doubts, we now have to ignore their expectations. Expectations that, if we're not careful, we're liable to believe. Do not fall into that trap. For some of you, Omaha is all you've known, but the path to get there is far from certain. Last year's success...
Coach Schloss, I'm sure you've seen that video many times, your fan base. It's very inspiring. It's a video of you in the locker room talking to your players. Beautiful facilities, by the way, but it didn't start that way. When you got on campus in 2003, the facilities aren't quite like they are today.
Well, you have to remember back then, the ballpark that I inherited was only a little over a year old. It was actually an awesome facility for its time, especially for TCU compared to what they had before. I mean, they were literally prior to the 2002 season, they were literally playing on a field with wooden bleachers and a tin press box. one of the worst facilities in the country, and they actually considered dropping baseball here. The commitment was not good, and they had a group of baseball alumni, kind of put forth a great effort along with the athletic department and raised the money for Lupton Stadium, which at the time was, it was one of the top 20 ballparks in the country. But certainly, over the last 15 years, college baseball has exploded and has continued to explode in terms of, fan recognition, media coverage, attendance, and facilities. And so what we've tried to do every single year is continue to make our ballpark better, whether it be adding seating, whether it be, video boards and changing the playing surface and a player development center, classroom, locker room, players lounge, all coaches' offices. I've been fortunate that TCU as the program has had success, they've rewarded the program by continuing to improve our facility. So, we're really proud of it, and it's certainly come a long way.
The fan base refers to it as Lupton Magic. I had a chance I've been to several games over there, and was over there before this past season. You gave us a quick tour of the facility. I was at the 22-inning, 6-hour, 54-minute game. Ended up 3-2 win over Sam Houston State. I believe it was back in 2014. Every time I got ready to leave, Coach, I had a young son with me. After about the 10th inning, I said, hey, we're going to have to leave. I had to drive about an hour. Now let's stay one more inning. Then it got exciting. About the 14th inning, I got to drive home. Hey, we got to leave. We ended up staying the whole game as an incredible game, and that's part of the magic you have there in Fort Worth.
Yeah, that's a legendary game, and people talk about it a lot. It's crazy to even be a part of a 22-inning game, let alone actually win the game as the visiting team. Extra inning games, to win an extra inning game as the visiting team is obviously a lot harder than it is as the home team. And then what people forget is the night before against Siena, we faced a really good left-handed pitcher from New York that ended up going in the 7th round. And we had to beat those guys in 11 innings. So we played 33 innings over the course of 24 or 36 hours. That was a great ball game, and there's been so many more. That we followed that regional win with a super regional against Pepperdine, in which all 3 games were 1-run ball games, and then the next year we had the 16-inning super regional championship game against A&M, and so there's been a lot of crazy moments and historic moments here in our ballpark, and that's added kind of to the lore of the program.
Coach Schlossnagle, you've had tremendous success at TCU, almost a 70% winning percentage, but you give a lot of your credit to your staff, your athletic directors, your current staff, assistant head coach Bill Mosiello, assistant coach Kirk Sarloos, volunteer coach Zach Etheridge. You've been able to put together a great team with vast experience, as well as recruiting some of the best baseball players in the country. Can you talk a little bit about the team you have around you and how powerful that's been for TCU baseball?
Well, I mean, it's to me, other than the commitment from the administration, the next most important thing is having the resources and the ability to hire who you want and to hire the best people, and not just hire the best people, but keep those people in place, because anytime you have success, and especially consistent success that we've had, people want to hire your people, and that's a compliment. That's not anything that I've ever shied away from. It's something that I'm actually proud of. And yes, we have an amazing staff right now, but I've had great coaches prior to that. Todd Whittings was the guy that really was along my side getting this thing off the ground, and he's now the head coach, a real successful head coach at the University of Houston. Randy Mazey is a successful coach in West Virginia. A really nice job for us in recruiting, and is the head coach at the University of Tennessee. Derek Matlock's now the head coach at UT Rio Grande Valley, and there's been other guys there, and of course, right now it's as good as it gets. Bill Mosiello is one of the best offensive and pure baseball minds in all of baseball, not just college baseball.
And a lot of professional experience as well.
He could be a major league manager in a heartbeat. Kirk Sarloos is, an ex-major league pitcher, and one of the best pitching coaches in the country and has done a really nice job for us in recruiting. And Zach Etheridge has got to be the most overqualified volunteer coach in all of college baseball. He's helps us with the hitters, does a great job with our catchers, and runs our camps. And so, there's no doubt that I have a great team, and I'm just a part of that. And a lot of the days, my job is to give them the resources to be successful, whether it be in recruiting or in their development of our players, and to let them coach. And I oversee things and jump in as I see fit, and try and take, it's hard, but it's try and take a 36,000 foot view most days, and just kind of keep the whole ship moving forward, if you know what I mean. And those guys they've been amazing.
Yes, sir. And you're very humble. You pitched in college at Elon University. You kind of poke a little fun at your college career, that you weren't that good. I do want to ask you, what made you decide to get in the coaching profession after your college days?
Well, it was actually during my college days. In my sophomore year, I was a journalism major, and all I really ever wanted to do back in those days, I was a big sports fan and played 3 sports growing up in high school. And even in my high school years, I knew I wanted to be a sports journalism guy and write. I wanted to write for Sports Illustrated and or work in TV, something like that. And so I've started off on that path, even in high school, working for my hometown newspaper and covering games and, taking basketball scores every Tuesday and Friday night after my own games and putting them in the paper. And but then in my freshman and sophomore year, my college coach, a guy by the name of Rick Jones, who's one of the most successful Division I coaches really of all time, and he was a long-time successful coach at Tulane. He was my college coach at Elon, and he called me in one day in my sophomore year and said, "Listen, we both know you're not playing in the big leagues. I think and you're more than welcome to stay here and be a part of the program, but I think you'd make a good coach." And I hadn't thought about that, but I had great respect for him, and he meant the world to me, still does. And he gave me a week off to think about it, and I talked about it with my parents, and I changed my major to education. And because back in those days, you had to go be a high school coach and then maybe a junior college coach, and you had to kind of work your way up. And so I figured I needed to be able to teach, and that education was a great education for me to become a coach. I think one of the problems we have in coaching today, especially at the youth level or select level, is you have coaches that aren't teachers. Teaching is an actual science. Teaching somebody a skill is an art and a science both. And if you're just a guy off the street who doesn't know how to create a master plan, create a lesson plan like a teacher does, break down a skill in parts, those are the things you learn, and when you're taking those education classes, and a lot of guys today don't, that's not the path anymore. And part of that can be good, but I think a lot of it is bad. So anyway, I came back after that week off and said, sure. So my last 2 years of college, I was actually a student assistant coach, and I just jumped in with both feet, and I would work camp in the summertime. This is in North Carolina and South Carolina and Georgia. And I would work camps in the summertime to meet people and make money. And then the summer after my senior year of college, I was planning on going back to Elon to be their first ever paid assistant coach. And my payment was going to be my graduate school, and I was basically going to be living in a big closet in the gym, and they were going to give me a meal ticket to the cafeteria. So my housing was going to be free, my meals were going to be free, and they were going to pay for my graduate school, which what else do you need, And in the middle of August, my last day of my last week of working camp at Clemson University, the head coach, a guy by the name of Bill Wilhelm, who was the coach there for 36 years, called me in and said, "Hey, we have all these new rules in NCAA baseball, and they've created this dumb, stupid position called the volunteer coach. and I'd like for you to come to Clemson and help me coach the pitchers, because I was running the pitching station in camp. And